Pharmacists say Canada's medication distribution system is strong and we're not at risk of mass drug shortages. That being said, there is concern over people trying to stockpile medications. Sandra Hanna from the Neighbourhood Pharmacy Association of Canada joins us now to let us know how pharmacies are dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic. Thanks so much for taking the time, Sandra. We appreciate it. I just want to know, to start, what your overall take is on how pharmacies are dealing with this right now.
Thanks for having me, Dallas. Pharmacies are in the business of managing supply on a day-to-day basis. Certainly in the context of COVID-19, but every day, there are concerns with the supply chain, and we ensure that we manage it to ensure that Canadians have access to the medications that they need on a day-to-day basis. So with COVID-19, certainly there's been supply chain the board, whether in the pharmaceutical supply chain as well as in grocery, toilet paper, and in a lot of cases, those concerns are not true shortages of product, but oftentimes unintended consequences of Canadians or people in general stockpiling on supplies. So this is a real concern for pharmaceutical supply chain as well, and something that pharmacists are playing a really big role in educating Canadians on, the strength of our Canadian supply chain, the strength of our pharmaceutical supply chain, and really the unintended consequences of what stockpiling medications or filling your prescriptions early, what those consequences might be and how they might impact negatively the supply chain.
How do you stop people from doing that?
Well, Dallas, I think this is a public health emergency. Short of putting policies in place that would, stop people from doing things, we all have a really important role to play in protecting the supply chain. We all have an important role to play to be responsible and, for the public health and the health of all Canadians. As pharmacists, we're at the front lines. We're managing these situations on a day-to-day basis. We're speaking with patients. We're helping to inform on, when it's appropriate to refill prescriptions. When it may or may not be necessary to refill a prescription early. We're recommending that Canadians fill 30 to 45 days supply rather than, what they may typically fill, which is 90 days. We're seeing people asking for 6 months now, and really to ensure that the supply chain is able to respond and predict and keep up with the demand. We need to ensure that the demand is consistent with typical ordering patterns. And so we're really trying to help, mitigate those changes and massive spikes in ordering patterns.
And to be clear, there is no shortage at this point. You say this is a well-oiled machine, so people don't need to worry necessarily, but is there a certain types of medication that you guys are keeping an eye on more so than others at this point?
Yeah, there are few medications, and there are some essential medicines that this is a full supply chain response. This is not just in pharmacy. So there are suppliers involved, there are wholesalers involved, and there are a lot of tactics in place to respond to changes or changing patterns in orders. There's specific allocation that's been put in place. Really at the front lines, pharmacists are really just trying to educate, to ensure that we can, as much as possible, keep demand patterns as consistent as we can.
Okay, we have to leave it there for this morning. Sandra Hanna from the Neighbourhood Pharmacy Association of Canada. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.